Well, U.S. troops may be leaving Iraq, but the administration is planning to build up in the Gulf to compensate. The New York Times says this morning that the Pentagon will be repositioning forces in the Gulf states, such as Kuwait, with an eye on Iran. This comes as the Iranian foreign minister reacted to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton saying the U.S. supports the Iranian people, not the regime. Foreign Minister Ali Akbar Saleh says his nation would like to have normal relations with America, but not now. What does that mean, and how does the administration further isolate Iran as it apparently pursues possible nuclear weapons? With us this morning, an exclusive, the former director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Louis Freeh, who has been very active in the Iranian issue in the past few weeks. Mr. Director, welcome. Thanks for joining us on the Fox News channel this morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
You know, I mean, they just seem so brazen. You've got this terrorist assassination case. They defy UN sanctions. What can we do you think, about Iran?
Yeah. Well, the regime does not want normal relations. I mean, we've heard this for 30 years. Khatami is a moderate, and if we would just pull some punches and give them some running room, things would be fine. Their nuclear programs, their IRGC, export of terrorism, the latest example, as you cite, a brazen plan to attack the ambassador from Saudi Arabia right here in Washington, D.C., which, by the way, is very similar to the IRGC operation in 1992 in Germany. You remember the Mykonos restaurant, 4 Kurdish leaders were assassinated. It went right back to the IRGC, right up to the supreme leader. So our policy has not worked, and I think we ought to take advantage of some opportunities to not just isolate Iran diplomatically, I don't know what that means, we've heard that from the State Department, but to really promote active resistance to the regime. And we have some opportunities to do that, as we've said publicly now for some time. The MEK group, which is a organized, peaceful resistance movement to the regime, headquartered in Iraq, 3,400 people at risk. They've been attacked now twice by Iraqi forces at the behest of the Iranian regime. Very serious risk to their lives. But more importantly, a great opportunity for the U.S. to really declare and support a resistance movement to this regime.
Well, wouldn't that be symbolic, or maybe more than symbolic, and why wouldn't the administration do that?
Well, it's more than symbolic. I mean, it would give this group the ability to raise funds in the United States, to relocate to other countries. And the reason for not doing it is the State Department persists in keeping this group on what we call the Foreign Terrorist Organization list. This was done in 1997 by a Democratic administration on the promise that Khatami, who was then billed as a moderate, would assist the U.S. and try to resume some normal relations. That didn't happen. They came back to the Bush administration in 2004 and said, keep that group on the list, and we will diminish or we will limit the amount of IEDs that were being used to kill American soldiers in Iraq. That never happened. The regime is terrified of this group because this is the organized resistance to its power.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, so a lot of us, former government officials, former CIA directors, former NATO commanders, former national security advisors to the president, ambassadors to the UN, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, have been pushing and urging the administration and the Secretary of State to delist this group, as the Europeans have done, as the UK has done, and again, this notion that we can have some normalization or have some ability to communicate with this regime, which is absolutely out of the question.
Well, and besides that issue, you talk about Germany. They have a history of this in the past, apparently. Back in Buenos Aires, the 1994-96 blowing up of a Jewish center and an attack on the Israeli embassy there. Are you bothered, as the former director of the FBI, that some skeptics are skeptical of this plot that Mansour al-Bassier, who is the Texas Iranian American who's accused in this? Some say, well, he's just a used car salesman who was disorganized. He couldn't have carried this out, even though the federal authorities, the U.S. attorney here in New York, says they've got this guy dead to rights.
Look, those are fair questions, but again, and you talked about Germany, in the Mykonos Cafe, 1992, Berlin, Germany, the IRGC, later found by the German courts to be responsible for the assassination of 4 individuals, and actually there was a Swedish group of diplomats which were supposed to be dining with them who also would have been killed. But if you look at the logistics of that operation, they were using a local grocer. They were using Lebanese nationals who were recruited, who were workers in Germany. So this is not, by any means in our experience, something atypical of the IRGC, and particularly the Quds Force, which reports directly to the spiritual leader. The other notion that these are rogue elements in the IRGC or Quds Force is completely contradicted and belied by the history and discipline of this force. When I was director in 1996, if you recall, the IRGC, using local Saudis, members of the Hezbollah, blew up our U.S. Air Force barracks in Khobar, murdered 19 airmen, wounded hundreds. These guys were trained by the IRGC in the Bekaa Valley. They were given passports in the Iranian embassy in Damascus. So, as you mentioned, Argentina, the cultural center, and many, many other examples, this is how the group operates. It's not a rogue element. And unless we can embolden and empower some organized resistance like the MEK, we're just kidding ourselves about watching any kind of reform or mitigation on their part.
And finally, briefly, you're, as you said, the former director of the FBI, you were a judge, you were a U.S. attorney who helped attack the mafia here in New York City. Do you believe that Iranian agents are here now and that they can possibly be planning potential terrorist attacks based on your experience? Absolutely.
They're here. They've infiltrated us. When I was director, at the same time, the State Department put this group on the list. We didn't think it was a good idea. By the way, on that list is not the Haqqani network or al-Sadr's Mahdi army, who've been killing Americans for 10 years. But, when they put the MEK on the list, they also told us to stop fingerprinting the Iranian wrestlers who were newly invited to the U.S. And we said, well, in those wrestling teams, the guy that doesn't look quite like a wrestler, he's the MOIS agent. He's the Iranian intelligence agent in the United States. So, yeah, I mean, they've been here, they're active here, and this is just the latest example of the brazenness and the terrorism of the regime.
All right, well, they kicked 2 guys out from the UN Iranian mission a couple of years ago, apparently taking videos of bridges and subways. So, as you say, they apparently are here. Louis Freeh, former director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, we thank you for taking the time to join us this morning here on the Fox News Channel.